Shalom, Israel. First and foremost, I would like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rekah Kwadash. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect. May salvation be in your futures. So, today I'm going to dive into this article, which reads Russia and India to start trade in rupees. And I want to show how the actions of America, Babylon the Great, are ultimately going to push her allies and these other nations to turn against her and ultimately burn her with fire. All right, shoot missiles on her. Okay, so let's just dive right into the lesson. Russia and India to start trade in rupees. A new payment mechanism has been given the green light to boost India's exports. India will soon launch trade in rupees with Russia. The head of the Federation of India Exports Organization said this week. This comes after the State Bank of India agreed to simplify a new payment mechanism. The State Bank of India has come forward for facilitating trade in rupees with Russia, and some other banks have also shown interest, A. Shaktivel told reporters, adding that India already has a good rupee payment mechanism in Iran. So the same thing will happen with Russia. In July, the Reserve Bank of India, the country's central bank, issued a circular urging nations leaders to introduce additional arrangements for import and export transactions in rupees. The move, designed to reduce the rupee's dependence on the dollar, is also seen as an incentive to boost trade with Moscow. India's exports to Russia slumped by about a third in April to July due to sweeping Western sanctions imposed on Moscow. All right. So as you can see, these nations are starting to come up with mechanisms to circumvent their way around sanctions. Okay. So a mechanism. It says a system of parts working together in a machine. All right. So these nations are coming together with their resources and putting their heads together and coming up with a mechanism to help them circumvent America's sanctions on them. Because even though America has sanctions on Russia, these sanctions affect all the other nations, the allied nations of Russia that try to do business with Russia. Okay, whether it's Germany with the Nord Stream 1 and 2 pipeline, or whether it's India with trade, it hurts multiple nations just by America putting sanctions on one. Okay, so, and when I say circumvent, all right,
Circumvent
just means to find a way, a way around an obstacle, and this obstacle in this case is America, Babylon the Great, and their sanctions. All right, so this is not the first time that nations have worked together to come up with a mechanism to circumvent the sanctions of America, Babylon the Great. So real quick, I did a lesson on this about a year or 2 years ago, maybe even 3 years ago. Time flies so fast. But there was a mechanism created called Instex. All right. It says Instex EU-backed system to circumvent U.S. sanctions on Iran. Because when America years ago put these sanctions on Iran, it crippled a lot of the nations that did business with Iran. So what did they do? They created a mechanism they came together, put their resources and heads together to create a mechanism to work around America's sanctions. All right. So this article reads, 6 new European nations join Iran barter system opposed by U.S. Now it reads, France, Britain, and Germany say that 6 new European nations have joined INSTEX, the bartering system they developed to allow firms to conduct business with Iran without violating U.S. sanctions. Okay, and that's all I'm going to read of that. So as you can see, these other nations, man, are working together in spite of America trying to throw a monkey wrench, okay, in these nations' well-being. Okay, and that goes to show America's allies that America Babylon the Great doesn't give a fuck about them. All right, because they're telling America, hey, these sanctions that you're putting on Iran or Russia or whatever country is affecting us, and we're your allies. So what are they doing? They're finding ways around it. So America's allies are just playing nice with America. But soon as they have a chance to stick the knife in their rib cage, that's what they're going to do. They're playing nice because Babylon the Great is very powerful, but they're just waiting for their opportunity. Okay. So, this is also another blow with Russia and India to start trading rupees. And also if other nations come in. All right. Because ultimately, matter of fact, let me stop babbling and let's get some scriptures, man. All right, this is Revelation chapter 17 and verse 6. Okay, it says, "In the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast." Okay, and we know that the beast is NATO and the EU. The EU for its monetary might and NATO for its military might. Okay, America rides the beast. Okay, she uses, the sanctions as a weapon. And if the sanctions doesn't work, she uses NATO and the military to go in and handle business. Okay, so it says, "And the 10 horns which thou sawest that sits upon the beast, these shall hate the whore." All right, and these are these European nations, man. All right, the allies. All right, that make up and consist of the beast. All right, they're going to get tired of this whore, America Babylon the Great, sitting on the back of the beast and using it. So it says, "And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire." Because ultimately, all these nations are going to see that America is the problem. Ultimately, America Babylon the Great is the problem. They're trying to create these mechanisms to work together in unison to make things better for all of their nations, but there's just this one asshole that's trying to hinder everything. Okay, and they're gonna get to a point where they're gonna say, "Yeah, we know who the problem is. Let's destroy this whore." All right, and they're gonna shoot nukes over here and destroy America in an hour during the Third World War. Okay, it says, continuing on, it says, "For Yahweh hath put in their hearts to fulfill his will." Right. Because when this place is destroyed, it's going to be the indignation of the Lord, man. His righteous anger. Okay. The Lord he's going to bust a spiritual nut on this place because the sins of this place has reached the heavens. Its philosophies and ideologies have spread through the four corners of the earth and just making the wickedness increase. It says, "For Yahweh hath put in their hearts to fulfill his will and to agree and give their kingdom unto the beast until the words of Yahweh shall be fulfilled." Right. So every prophecy of these scriptures be fulfilled. It says, "And the woman which thou sawest is that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth." Right. America Babylon the Great, man, reigns over all these nations. All right. And all of these nations that seem to be confederate with her, they're just playing nice until they have an opportunity to strike, because they're seeing that these devils are crazy with the things that they're doing. Okay. So from there, let's go play this little clip.
Now I know it's too late now, but if Sri Lanka could go back in time, what would they do? perhaps not elect Gotabaya Rajapaksa as president. When he took office, Sri Lanka's foreign exchange reserves were modest, around $7.5 billion. This year, they fell to 50 million. Imagine that fall from 7.5 billion to $50 million. And that was his worst mistake, burning through valuable dollars. Now more than ever, you need those greenbacks. Oil is more expensive, food is more expensive, so conserving forex is extremely important, which is why India's Reserve Bank has come up with a new plan. Indian traders can now settle their business in rupees. Until now, that was not the case. Trade had to be done in convertible currencies, like the dollar, or the pound sterling, or the euro. But that's not the case anymore. Pretty soon, India's international trade can be conducted in Indian rupees. Let me explain how that works. Step 1, countries must express interest in the rupee trade. Step 2, both sides exchange bank accounts. For example, let's assume Russia wants to trade in Indian rupees. Then Russian banks will open accounts in Indian banks, and these are called Vostro accounts. Similarly, Indian banks will have to open accounts in Russia. So both sides will maintain reserves in local currency. Step 3, the trade begins. Again, let's use an example. Suppose India is exporting something to Russia, say cars. Now, Russia will pay for these cars in their currency, in the ruble. But that money is not directly paid to the exporter. Instead, that money, those rubles, are deposited in the Vostro account. Step 4, the banks calculate the payment in rupees. How do they do that? Based on the market conversion rates. For example, if the payment is, say, 100 rubles, then the bank releases 135 Indian rupees to the exporter. That is today's exchange rate. So effectively, here's what the system means. Indian exporters get paid in Indian rupees and Indian importers pay in Indian rupees. How will this system benefit India? In 3 ways. Number 1, it will arrest the rupee slide. The US dollar has hit 79.5 against the rupee. Experts say it could soon breach 80. So the RBI is deploying Economics 101, increasing the demand for rupee. Under this new system, foreign traders will require more rupees. And more demand equals more value. Benefit number 2, it conserves valuable foreign exchange. India's reserves stand at $588 billion. That should be enough to last us almost 10 months. But the problem is the trajectory. Foreign investors have pulled out $33 billion from the Indian markets. Plus, the trade deficit is increasing. It is 2.5 times last year's level. So the RBI is looking to get ahead of the curve, protect the reserves, and use the rupee instead. Benefit number 3, easier trade with struggling regimes. This includes the likes of Russia, Iran, even Sri Lanka. Most Russian banks have been kicked out of the international banking system, the SWIFT system. So the Indian rupee trade could be an alternative. India and Russia can trade without the US dollar. That's a lot of savings for both sides. Let me show you the numbers. In June, India bought 950,000 barrels of oil per day from Russia. That's almost 15% up compared to May. At the same time, the imports from West Asia dropped. The Iraq imports fell 10%. The Saudi Arabia imports dropped 13%. So India's oil trade is now configured towards Russia. How much money are we talking about? Almost $5 billion. That's how much India spent until May 2022, until May this year. Now, those payments were made in the US dollars. But with this new system, that changes. India and Russia can trade in local currency. Same applies to Sri Lanka. Until now, India's credit lines were in US dollars. But now loans can be issued in Indian rupees. And Sri Lanka can use this money to buy Indian commodities, whether it's food or fuel or medicines. Beyond that, could this move globalize the rupee? Perhaps challenge the dollar or the euro? The RBI statement does mention this. Listen closely. This is what the RBI, the Reserve Bank of India, has said. In order to support the increasing interest of global trading community in the rupee, it has been decided to put in place an additional arrangement for invoicing, payment, and settlement of exports and imports.
So anyway, I know that was kind of long, but you see how these nations, man, are getting ready to kick America Babylon the Great out of the party. Okay, plain and simple. They're getting ready to kick them out of the party because they're not needed anymore. with all these different mechanisms that they're coming together with, these workarounds, continuing business with one another, circumventing all these sanctions that America is doing. Man, it's over for the dollar, and it's over for America Babylon the Great. So let's end it with this. All right, this is Jeremiah chapter 50 and verse 9. It says, "For lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon an assembly of great nations from the north country, and they shall set themselves in array against her. From thence she shall be taken. Their arrows shall be as a mighty expert man. None shall return in vain." Right. None of these missiles are going to return in vain when these nations shoot them off. Okay. It says, "And the Chaldeans shall be a spoil. All that spoil her shall be satisfied, saith the Lord." Right, because there's nothing new under the sun, man. Okay. It says, because ye were glad, Salakia, because ye were glad, because ye rejoiced, O ye destroyers of my heritage, because ye are grown fat as the heifer at grass and bellow as bulls. Right. The Lord has destroyed the Lord's chosen people, you Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. And these Edomites are proud, man. Proud. And they're going to be proud all the way up until their downfall. It says, "Your mother shall be sore confounded." Okay. And the mother of America is Britain. Okay. If I'm not mistaken, "She that bare you shall be ashamed." Okay. "Behold, the hindermost of the nations shall be a wilderness, a dry land, and a desert. Because of the wrath of the Lord Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, it shall not be inhabited, but it shall be wholly desolate. Every one that goeth by Babylon shall be astonished and hiss at all her plagues." And all this is speaking of a future prophecy, okay? Because Babylon today is still inhabited. It's still inhabited. It's modern day Iraq, okay? The Lord says America Babylon the Great is never going to be inhabited again after the destruction of this place. Thus saith the Lord. It says, "Put yourselves in array against Babylon round about, all ye that bend the bow. Shoot at her, spare no arrows, for she hath sinned against the Lord Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai. Shout against her round about. She hath given her hand, her foundations are fallen, her walls are thrown down, for it is the vengeance of the Lord Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai. Take vengeance upon her, as she hath done, do unto her." Right, because the Lord says America Babylon the Great and these Edomites are going to drink double of the cup, man. Thus saith the Lord, that they put the nation of Israel through. So anyway, man, Lord's willing, that was edifying. Shalom. Wa abad babal. Kwam Yasharallah.